Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to America's Heroes Group on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. I am Vietnam veteran host Cliff Kelley. America's Heroes Group is a live streaming podcast, global platform, radio, print, and digital media broadcast show that empowers change agents through intentionally disseminating information, resources, and referrals to empower our military population.
Welcome to America's Heroes Group. This time is our community outreach with Webb House Inc. Today is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. November is Military Family Appreciation, National Family Caregiver, and Alzheimer Disease Awareness Month. And don't forget, November 11th is Veterans Day coming up, and it's a proud day for all our veterans. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have a panelist with us, Shandelon, the U.S. Army veteran and president of the Webb House. We're going to talk about the Webb House, the mission, the agenda, and also the fundraiser coming up on November the 9th. How are you doing today?
Finding yourself. I'm glad you could have me on.
Our pleasure. So tell us about the Webb House. When was it started, and also what is your mission?
Webb House started in 2009 by Sheila Webb and Robert Bob Farmer. And what they want to do, because the women veterans are they're the highest homeless, and they didn't really want to. They considered men as being veterans or the ones that go to war, combat. So we weren't really looked at as being veterans. It was just like if you went the WAC, the Women Army Corps, like, okay, you served behind the lines, but you didn't go into the wars, and which is not true. So it was they were doing homes, because I remember when I came back out of the Army, I was in the Gulf War. I was in from 1989 to 93, and when I came back from Desert Storm, I came back with my mother, and I was looking for a place, and all they had was places for men veterans, but none for women. I went in one. They had apartments available, but they said, because you're a woman, it was a one-bedroom. And I told them, I said, well, my two children could sleep in the bedroom, and I'll sleep, I'll make space on the couch and let our bed. And I was turned down because of that. Mm-hmm. And I found out that other ones were turned down, or they would have places where the veterans could come to, but it would say, okay, well, we're going to have a place for the women veterans, but then they feel like, okay, we didn't get as many women as we thought as we could as fast. So we're going to put, instead of being for women, we're going to make it co-ed, and it made a lot of the women veterans uncomfortable, because it was like, hey, this is not what we were told. And so when I used to work for the VA, and in 2015. I met Mr. Bob Farmer and Sheila Webb, and I went to and he had Webb House. So I was there, and I was helping, and I saw a lot of it in Gary, and also in Chicago and Indiana, all over, where the women veterans, there wasn't really anything for them. And so, they were like, okay, well, we're just doing for veterans, but not the not the women veterans. It's just going to be co-ed. And so, because some of them may have been dealing with some mental health issues because of what happened in the military, the wars that they went, and the same as the men, they just did not look at us as, well, you just go ahead. Even Veterans Day, I would go out, and they would tell me, they would say, thank you for your service to the men, but if we didn't have a uniform or we didn't throw it in their face, they would not consider us as veterans. So when he said that he wanted to have a place, the farmer said he wanted to have a place specifically for women veterans, and that I said, okay. And then we have been doing this for years, going through it, trying to see about how we can help them get their services, because some of them still won't even apply for services.
Through the VA?
Yes, they won't. They will not apply for it. They think, well, I've been turned down before, or even just going to just get any type of services with the VA. But the one thing, having a roof over their head, is a thing of like, I've tried that, I've been turned down, or I don't want to be where there's a bunch of men, because then it's going to be a problem, in which I understand that it is a problem if they have been through something, especially a military sexual trauma, or just don't want to be bothered. Just, I want to feel safe.
Mm-hmm. How many beds do you have in the facility?
Well, it's going to be 10 for 10 veterans, and that's not including the 2 volunteers that are going to be there, which I'm going to be one of the house mothers. And then there's another, but on my side, I explained to, because we are getting ones that were in jail or in prison, and that we would have on the side I was going to be on. I said, well, give me someone if they're in a wheelchair, disabled. Then we have the ones that are coming in and out of jail or prison. Because I used to work in the Cook County Jail in the kitchen with the male, as a supervisor with the male inmates. Then there was then we have the ones that are transgender that have gone through the surgery. And so I said, well, we need, let me have them on my side. That way, because I know that one person, if they're transgender, they have to make, if they have to have their medication, the certain medications, the one that's in jail or prison, to make them feel comfortable and to make them feel like they're included, and then they're no different than any other woman veteran that's coming in there. So that's one of the issues. It's not an issue, but we welcome all, and no matter what, you're still a woman veteran, and you served as well.
And are your beds all filled?
Not yet, because we're still trying to get it up. Hopefully soon that it will be up, so then it'll be up by next year. And the project is so different. It's because they're there for 6 to 9 months, but they're going through where the unions are going to come and help, and we're going to have the child care. I won't be babysitting. It'll be someone from the schools that we're going to get from child care. They're going to pick them up. They're going to have a bus to pick the kids up and take them to school. We're going to have different activities, and it's just going to be something that we're going to teach them how to say, for instance, we're going to for instance, how they haven't been with their child. So they want to do arts and crafts, they want to do as far as interacting with their children, how to, say, for instance, they want to have a birthday party with them. But it's more of like, hey, we're going to teach you, have someone to come in and train you how to fix your credit if you want to be a homeowner, if you want to do a condo, whatever you want to do. So that way, once they leave the program, then they'll be like, okay, I can go on my own, and I can do this, and I don't have to worry about someone, feeling like I can't do anything. I have a place to live, and it's my own, and then I have a job that I can know I'm going to make money, and I'm good with working with my hands. And I can, if I see another veteran that has that look or is going through the same thing, then I can recommend them for this program.
And then, so how does the setup work with the children? Do they stay with the parent, with the mother, or do they have a separate area?
Well, the room. Okay, so for instance, if you're in your 30s, a woman's coming in and she comes in there. She's already been screened, and she's like, okay, well, I have 2 children. They've been authorized to come in there. So they go in the room, and then they take they bathe, and then they change their clothes. And then the clothes that they have, then it's like, okay, they're going to have brand new clothes. So if I go in there, and they not me, but they go in the room, and then it's a bunk bed for the kids, and it's a full-size bed for that veteran. And then they come out, and then they say, okay, well, I'm hungry. Then they're able to go and eat. So they have access for TVs. They have stuff in the room. We just give them a little time, and then they come out when they're ready, and then we talk with them. We show them we already show them the whole place. where everything is, and we let them know that, hey, this is not, this is our house, all of us, and this is, it's just like not being in the barracks, but this is our house. We want you to feel comfortable. We have a sisterhood. We're sisters. And so they could come and talk to whatever their needs are. If they haven't done anything like going on the outside, we have to find out, if you're an introvert or extrovert, so that way we know how to work with you and how to deal with you. So then your children, because your children will be with you, and you don't have to worry about somebody coming to say anything to your children out of the place. You're going to have the counselors there. So we're going to make sure everything that you need, and they'll be busy Monday through Friday. They'll be busy, and then on the weekends there'll be different things that we have, activities that if they want to participate in. My one activity I like doing is going downtown and seeing the Nutcracker play live. And so if they want to go to plays, whatever they want to do, they want to, what they used to do before they went into the military. If they want to do that, that's fine. If not, we'll find something else to make them more productive.
So what I'm hearing is people have privacy, but they also can bring their children. You have programs where they can help them reintegrate into society, but also get back on their feet, help them improve parts of their lives that might be broken because of of hardships or things like that they might have suffered through the military experience. Now, do you guys work closely with the VA, or you utilize any of the VA programs, or are you guys specifically just doing things through other resources?
Well, it's a lot of we're trying to do with the VA, but doing through other resources. And it's more of like some of the counselors, like we will be using them. And so if we're going to try to use the VA and make sure that they know how to get in the VA if they haven't gotten the VA system, or if they haven't filed a claim, to be able to do that. And so instead of maybe going out and say, okay, I don't want to go to this where they're doing the claims today, it's 100 people, and the number I'm on is 110. So it may be hours. So it's more of like, instead of going down there, if they feel like they can't, is to teach them how to use a computer to be able to show them how to access their information, and or maybe just even do their own claim, or see about how they can get help if they can't go outside to end up doing this.
Now, how do you guys get fundraising? How do you guys raise funds to pay for all the things you got to do?
Well, if they get the donations, then what they do is like they'll say, okay, for instance, the one that's on the 9th we're having, that's the $50 a plate, and it'll go towards the Women's Veterans Home. So once that goes there, then it's more of like, it's not just like, okay, well, we're just going to do this and that's it. It's more of like, okay, now we have this. Now we have to think about the next fundraiser as we're doing this one, so that we know that how can we improve this one from, we're always thinking about how we can improve the next fundraiser so when we finally get the Women's Veterans Home up. So one thing you got to think about, that person may be coming from if they've been on the streets, and they're used to eating any and everything. It's like, okay, changing their diet. So the nutritionist, or if we get someone to come in and say, hey, we need to change this person meals and programs, so that, because if they say, for instance, they were eating out the trash can, I don't know, or, just eating a lot of fast food, now your diet's going to change, where you're going to have that 3 square meals a day, and you're going to have a meat, starch, vegetable, fruit, salad, just stuff it may change your system around, but how to help you. And so that, with the food, and then if your children if you don't have insurance for your children, and so we need to get you around wherever you need to go, anything that you need. We're raising money for these women. So if they are, say for instance, they have to do I'm sorry, their detergent. If they can't use anything, they have to use everything that's free and clear. And so it's just more of that person can't use anything, or they have allergies, or they don't eat certain things. So we have to take into play this is 10 different people. And then if they have children with them, we have to think about each and every individual. If they come to me and say, hey, you know what, I can't sleep tonight. Can you sit up with me and can we talk, or we just sit and watch TV? Or, just anything that something might trigger them all. So we have to make sure everything that these women are, that they feel comfortable, that they can come and say, okay, well, let's see how we can get you some help. So picking up from just anything, like if I haven't used makeup in years, I don't know what kind of makeup to use, or I want to use makeup, or I want to dress a certain way, because it might be that I'm wearing shoes that might have holes in it. So everything you have to think about, all of the stuff that they want to do to make themselves feel better, getting their hair done. Maybe I might want to get my feet done, and just getting out, having a few dollars in my pocket to make me feel better.
So you have the fundraisers, but then do you do other things? I looked up and I saw that a few years ago you had a annual celebration of life dinner, and then you had a Medal of Honor recipient Sammy L. Davis, a Vietnam vet who rescued 3 of his battle buddies in Vietnam. He's the last, as far as I know, he's the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient in the state of Indiana. You had him speak at the 9th annual celebration of life dinner. How frequently do you have dinners, and how hard is it to get funds and to fundraise for the operation that you're doing? Because what you described was a lot of stuff. You got a lot of stuff going on, helping people that really need help. It sounds like you need people that are experts in counseling, people that are experts in nutrition, people that are experts in different things to try to help people get back on their feet. Because rehabilitating someone who's going through a trauma, particularly, it's not an easy task.
Yes, and also because we've also had Jessica Lynch with us for some time, and so it's just more of who do we have? Like I used to work for the Veterans Administration too, and it was we saw the ones with the mental health, but it's also seeing like if something like if I see someone looking a certain way that might get triggered, so it's more of like, hey, let's stop this, get this person out of this. It seems like harm's way, because right now they may not know, or I might see something that a person might feel like they might have an anxiety attack. So it's just more of letting them find out what triggers them, because they may not know, but okay, what triggers them and what will stop them from being triggered. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nothing to say like to have a roof over your head and food on your table, then to, hey, okay, that's good, but I want to do other things, and I want to be able to know, I know who I was, maybe who I was before the military, but now I'm out of the military, because I tell people, when you go in there, they train you.
Before I cut you, I got to give us the information as to how to get tickets for the fundraiser. Is there a name for the fundraiser?
Yes, it is called 2023 Ladies Night Out for Webb House, and it is be held at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center, and the tickets cost $50 plans for the evening, and it's November 9th from 6:30 to 9 p.m., and then the number that they can call is, they can call Eventbrite, or they can call Webb House Edo Robert Farmer at 219-730-6593, 219-730-6593, or they can email Webb, WEBB, HOUSINC 41 @gmail.com. Once again, WEBB, HOUSEINC 41 @gmail.com.
Shandelon and Guy, thank you for your time. We got to cut you off because we ran out of time. But come back and tell us how the event went, and then also go to our website, americashg.org, and you can get information there as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. You too. Have a blessed day.
America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group with our roundtable and our sponsor, partner RHF, that's Rick Herma Foundation. Today is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. November is Military Family Appreciation, National Family Caregiver, and Alzheimer Disease Awareness Month. And don't forget, November 11th is Veterans Day. Support our proud veterans. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Clem, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Arnold Productions. And we have our partner, once again, a familiar voice and a familiar face on our screen. That's Darren Jeffrey. He's a founding board member of the RHF and also the original course creator builder for the TV show American Ninja Warrior on NBC, among many other TV shows as well. Darren, how you doing?
Doing great, Sean. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Oh, wonderful. It's always great to hear your voice.
Always great to hear yours. Now, tell me, what is up in the news of RHF?
Lots is going on. We had a fabulous year. We're winding down, this year, 2023. We literally served thousands of families out in Fayetteville, North Carolina, that are living around the Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. Our 55-acre campus out there has been bustling. We've had arts and crafts projects. Our tree houses are filled with kids and families running around. The picnic tables are full. I mean, it's just been an amazing year for us.
Well, one of these days we got to make a field trip and go down there and broadcast from there, do a show live from the Rick Herma, from Rick's place, so that way we can get an idea and a feel for what's going on there. And also all the fun stuff you guys described and talked about and built so many great memories there as well. Now, how hard was it to build that facility?
Oh, it was amazing. When you look at what we have today and roll the clock back a little over 9 years, and I remember what it was when we started. And what we did is we took every obstacle that was in our way, we turned that into an opportunity. And initially when we first got the property, it was 21 acres. and it was overgrown, and there was an old stable and some old horse corral and some old fencing. And what we did is we created a family work day, and we advertised throughout Fort Bragg and the community that RHF is having a family work day. And families came out there, and we literally were handing out rakes and shovels and cutters and chainsaws and pruners, and folks just spent the day clearing brush with their families.
Wow.
And, the next weekend was a barbecue, and everybody came back, and we kind of celebrated what small progress we had made. So,
that sounds so cool.
Yeah, we just kept doing it, and then, the visions that would happen as the foundation grew. RHF is a very unique organization. We really, when Josh is is basically our founder, and when we all got together and we started talking about this, starting a nonprofit, quote, starting a nonprofit, it's my advice to anybody that wants to, quote, start a nonprofit is to maybe not start a nonprofit, maybe go find a nonprofit that's closely aligned with your thinking and help power that. But in Fayetteville, right outside of what was Fort Bragg at the time, now Fort Liberty, there was nothing like this serving active duty families. And, veterans, obviously the veteran community has surrounded us as well, but we had no emphasis on active duty families that would not stigmatize or label people as being wounded or broke. This is a we want to create family resiliency. That was the mission. And so immediately,
I got to interrupt you there too, because I hate when people do that to veterans, when they paint this portrayal of veterans being broken and downtrodden. We're all homeless. We're all got PTSD.
No, it's as far from the truth as you can get. I mean, everybody has hard days at work, and if you have enough hard days in a row, obviously it's going to wear on you. And that's a fact. I don't want to minimize that reality, but conversely, we've got active duty families that are really thriving in their positions, and how do we support that and support resiliency within those families while they're active? A lot of times the paradigm in America is that, the veterans are the folks that need support. But, and if you're an active duty family, the paradigm is, the military's got you covered. You're under the umbrella. You're good to go. But the reality is no, there is very little opportunity for active duty families to participate in family style programming that doesn't stigmatize them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was where I was dead wrong. As a founding board member, I said, guys, let's not start a nonprofit. Let's go find one to help power. And there just wasn't one. So it became very obvious we had to actually do the startup and get it going from the ground up.
The thing is, you have a very unique background because you came from television, and you built obstacle courses for some reality TV shows that are famous. They're all over the world. How did that experience help you, kind of birth this idea and bring this to fruition and all the way out in Fayetteville, North Carolina?
Right. So, being a quirky, I'm an old rock climber. This whole, American Ninja Warrior and all the Ninja Warrior obstacle courses that I designed around the world, this all started from my rock climbing background. I'm an old firefighter with the Forest Service. I was a hot shot with the Forest Service for many years, and I also have a construction background. So when I started my company in 1999, obviously had no idea that any of this was going to evolve the way it did. But, by the time we got, pretty famous and popular and people had found us, I got tapped to become an instructor, to offer some rock climbing classes for our military. And that's essentially how I got to know these folks. But we realized that we had a lot in common, that myself, because I ended up selling my company in 1999 because I've been fighting prostate cancer for about 10 years, 10 and a half years.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And Yeah, it's that's a discussion in and of itself. How that's been an amazing factor in my life. Knock on wood. But transitioning from my career into kind of a private life that has a lot of remarkable similarities to a lot of the guys and gals that I've met over the years that have also retired from the military and have had to go through a transition era. And so that's where a lot of similarities. So RHF was actually a really nice, place for me to park my talents and my business experience while I was transitioning and dealing with my health.
Now, how did you get connected with Rick Herma? How did you learn about Rick Herma, and did you know him?
I did not. I did not meet Rick. I met Josh. Josh was Rick's best friend. Rick passed away in 2006 on a combat mission in Iraq. The stories of that particular mission are, unbelievably amazing stories. And it's not to say that there aren't lots and lots of stories out there. There's so many, amazing soldiers that have, been killed in action over the years. That it's sometimes we're asked, well, why do we want to honor Rick? And what we did with Rick was, Josh basically said Rick is the kind of guy that would want to see something like RHF for everybody in the community nationwide. And so, we just took advantage of the opportunity that, Rick would have wanted this. And it could have been, honestly, it could have been any number of amazing soldiers that have given their life and paid that ultimate sacrifice. But we had an opportunity to run with Rick and Rick Herma and his name. His family was behind it. They still are. His sister Kate is one of our board members. His parents, Dick and Mary, they come out to the property. They live in Michigan. They come down to Fayetteville all the time to support what we do down there. So we had a lot of synergy to go, and that's where I was really interested, in being involved. Is that, we could have named this after, anyone, but it was Josh and his vision, him knowing Rick, and his inspiration. So those key elements coming together sequentially created an opportunity that just could not be ignored. Mm-hmm. And the doors just started opening for us.
Wow. I think that's really powerful too, to have someone that you connect with, because you can, pick somebody, you can pick a Medal of Honor recipient or something like that, but having someone that you knew and served with to make something in their honor, I think is really powerful, but also it makes you, there's more passion about that project.
Yeah. And, and a nuance is that, Rick passed away in 2006 when he was killed. We didn't start the foundation for several years later. And, so I know Josh was sitting on this vision for years, routine combat deployments year after year after year. Josh is in a very high level of special operations. And so essentially, every time he would deploy or come home and reintegrate, the need was obvious. And it was year after year, deployment after deployment, the need was growing. And that's when Josh and I got together and he said, Darren, I want to share with you a need that's going on in our community for active duty families that need support, but they cannot be labeled wounded or broken. They cannot be stigmatized. And that was just an absolute eye-opener for myself. A lot of the folks that I've introduced to the foundation over the years, some of our board members, a couple of our advisors, they also share the same, jaw-dropping, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is a gap. These families should be more supported. What can we do to help? And so private sector from nationwide, we've gotten support, within the local community, but the vast majority of the fiscal and the logistic and business support that we get comes from a national people that live in California and Oregon, Idaho, Montana, New York, Florida. Nowhere near Fort Liberty. They have a son, they have a daughter, they have a dad, they have a grandpa. They all have somebody that's been through that that process that is deployed through Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. It's really amazing to see how interwoven our nation is to that particular base, and and then the support that has come from this.
One of the things we do at America's Heroes Group, one part of our core tenets in our mission is to bring a highlight to veteran service organizations, VSOs across the country, to help them thrive and survive through all the difficulties of running a nonprofit. How do you get the message out to get that fundraising and get the word out so that people can donate to your organization?
Well, we've done it very organically. A lot of veteran organizations can go out and raise money, using certain buzzwords and phrases, such as, PTSD or, work stress and whatnot. We do not use any of that phrase, none of that language. We don't go after that, those grants, those types of things. So there's not a whole lot of government support grant-wise that we have found for exactly what we're doing. So this is all private sector. Like we don't have, and I think that it's something that really should change. I think most of us on the board are kind of rolling our eyes that the government hasn't and done matches or created grants for what we're doing. So we're really just word of mouth, private sector. A lot of folks that have gotten out of the military, that have gone on to start their own businesses, that have become successful, they circle back and they're fiscally supporting us as well.
So if someone wants to donate to RHF, how do they do it?
Sure. So the easiest way is our website it's rhfnow.org, and that we've got a wonderful website. You can see the property that we have. We have 55 acres, 4 minutes from the front gate of Fort Liberty in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And folks can get on a program where you donate $5 a month. Other folks will put up, larger donations. Some people will jump in and support specific fundraisers like the Ninja Warrior competition or some of our shootouts that we do. And then other groups will come in and they'll put money up, and they'll say that the money will be good once it's been matched. So we do get a fun time, announcing that we've got $10,000 available, but it's not available to us until we have a match donor. So that's been a really exciting fundraising tactic for us.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Tell us about the facility. Tell us about what you guys offer. You mentioned things like the shootout. Tell me about all those things. What's on?
Sure. When you find us in Fayetteville, you're driving down a paved road with giant, tall pine trees, shaded. This is a beautiful treed property. You pull in, there's a house. We call it the Herma house, and it's 2 stories. We have a commercial kitchen down the stairs where we do cooking classes, and we have all kinds of potlucks, and that kitchen supports a big part of what we do on the property. But then on the left-hand side, you've got giant tree houses in the trees. You look out across. We started with 21 acres. We're now at 55 acres. The neighboring properties have been donated to us over the years. So we just have enormous amounts of open space. We have mountain biking. We have trails set up where people can hike. We're putting in a lake currently. We're going to be doing fishing out there here soon. It's like a little slice of paradise just right outside the base.
Wow. And you have, of course, the obstacle course, right?
Absolutely. So coming this spring, we have the Ninja Warrior course. This is the only place that you touched on this in the introduction, so for the audience, I am the original course creator for American Ninja Warrior, the television show, and I'm also the original course creator for Ninja Warrior around the world. Partnered with the Japanese. Had done that for many years before I sold my interest in the company which I founded. I sold my interest in 2019. And so, as a record, the only place that you can touch my work that's not been on television is out at Rick's place. I have once a year we build a Ninja Warrior course. I bring some of my best rigging buddies and friends that I've worked with over the years, and we dig pits in the ground, and line them with plastic, fill them full of water, and we have all the Ninja Warrior obstacles over water, and we set up a free competition for the families, and they're encouraged to come out and beat themselves up on this obstacle course. Essentially.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
How hard is it compared to say a Navy SEALs obstacle course or something like that? How hard is it compared to those things?
Significantly harder.
Wow.
Significantly harder. Yeah, we've got our elite course. We average about a 90% failure rate.
Wow.
On the elite course.
So now I just want to try this for because you said that I got to try it now.
There you go. Right. Yeah, exactly. Just like on the television show, and on TV, the athletes that you see on television, they are training specifically for that television show all year long. So when we see those athletes on TV, when we see them progressing through the course, it's because those are some of the most elite athletes in the world.
Wow.
And I've been on lecture panels for the Olympics. I've been on lecture panels for professional sports. I've been on think tank for human performance groups. How do we make females stronger? How do we make males stronger? How do we improve mental confidence and so on? The Ninja, what you see on television is actually that. It is literally the highest caliber of mental confidence combined with physical agility.
Wow.
Period.
And how do people audition for that? Do they try out? How do they get on the show?
They do try out. So now that the show has been going on for a few years, we have our usual suspects that we always try to bring in. But, essentially there's a sign-up process. You can get on NBC's website. You can Google it. There's an application process. A lot of athletes will send in videos of them performing, little clips on their backstory, and that's the producers. It's up to them. It's their discretion who they actually cast for to be a competitor. So for our military families, what's so unique about obstacle courses is that the military is the only profession on Earth that uses an obstacle course at work. Mm-hmm. Period. The Olympics doesn't have obstacle courses. The NFL doesn't have anything. All of our big human performance groups, nobody's got an emphasis on obstacle courses. The military is the only working class culture that uses an obstacle course at work. So that's where me being the Ninja Warrior guy, quote unquote, and building an obstacle course for the military, to me that was a special opportunity, something that shouldn't be taken lightly.
Mm-hmm. And a perfect marriage between an expert and what, because I loved obstacle courses in the military. That was something that was a fun day for me just to go out and do an obstacle course. I look forward to it. I wish I did it more in the military. Or wish we tried more in the military with the obstacle courses. For my profession, I was a mechanic, so I wasn't in infantry, so I wasn't going to be doing it every day. But,
right.
Yes. But so can anybody? If a person's not in the military, could they enjoy Rick's place?
You bet. Yeah. So for Ninja Warrior, we do have a couple of dates on our website where civilians can jump on and register. We do charge just a small amount of money if you're a civilian. I think it's $20 or $25 per person. It's a very nominal amount for you to come out and compete. And then obviously that's 100% of that money is passed right over to Rick's Place and to RHF for our operation, et cetera. So if you are a civilian and you do make it out to Rick's Place and you end up on, the Ninja Warrior course out there, thank you. And you are supporting the families that you would be surrounded by when you're out there.
And it's tax deductible, of course, because you're a 501c3.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, everything is. And so when you send us a deduction, our bookkeeping process is absolutely stellar. You'll get a receipt that shows your kind donation, and that is absolutely a tax write-off.
I could see this as being a really, really cool thing for especially businesses and corporations that want to do these team building type exercises, like Fortune 500 companies, and want to get their C-suite employees to work better together, or have some kind of bonding experience or networking experience, to use this as a challenge or as an event, so to speak, where, because sometimes people go out and they'll go into conferences and they'll do these little training exercises to build confidence and things like that. This could be such a powerful tool for those guys, and even guys that are on American Ninja Warrior, to want to go and practice and do something that's going to be like the real show. Because guys that do parkour, I can see them, running around Chicago or running around the city and doing crazy stuff. But where can you really train on an obstacle course in America other than a place like yours?
It's few and far between. And the real reason is because even though there are Ninja Warrior gyms sprinkled all around America, none of them are over water. They're all over pads. And, I say this tongue in cheek, but it's not a Ninja Warrior course if it's not over water. And that's the bottom line, because the consequence of failure means you're splashing down. Your clothes are going to be soaked. You got to crawl out of a pool in front of all your friends.
And it makes it harder for you to go through the next round.
Gym, exactly. So you go to a ninja gym and you fall off an obstacle, you land on some pads, and, it's inconsequential. There's no consequence. There's no live consequence to your training. So to train on a course over water it's the night and day difference between practicing and the real deal.
Wow. We got about 30 seconds left. What last words you want to tell our audience about Rick Herma or the Rick Herma Foundation? Well,
I got to tell you, America, thank you so much for supporting our military. Sean wouldn't have such a popular reputation if this wasn't, a real thing. So please look at our website, rhfnow.org. Take a moment to see what we're doing. And if you're inspired, if you're a veteran in transition and you're inspired, I would suggest that you get involved with our nonprofit. And if you can't get involved with ours, find another nonprofit that interests you and staple yourself to that group and help power their mission. That's going to help you with your transition.
Darren Jeffrey, always a pleasure.
Oh, Sean, my friend, thank you.
This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much. People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, and service and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Okay.
On behalf of Cliff Kelley, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans have a hot meal today and a care package. We are sincerely grateful for this partnership. Yeah.
Welcome to America's Heroes Group. Hear your voice where we connect the disconnected intentionally.
Who is Cliff Kelley, the governor of talk radio, the icon of radio throughout the world?
Chauncey Spencer II and I, again, share a special relationship. His late great father, Tuskegee Airman Chauncey E. Spencer, took me as a child on my first airplane ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is something that people need to see. Often we don't, do the things to show how great our people are. It changes the paradigm of how people think about us, about the collective consciousness of what it means to be us.
And we've been having great conversations about trying to get more African Americans into aviation. And we got a bill that we're trying to get passed that would allow the Pell Grant to be used to help finance aviation education.
This is where I started with this entire conversation by saying, if it were not for America's Heroes Group, I would have given up. So I want to get all my accolades out the way on behalf of America's Heroes Group. Ms. Glenda, thank you. Thank you for encouraging me to press on. I would encourage you all to support this organization. One thing for sure, America's Hero Group is out there. Ms. Glenda will take the time. Ms. Glenda Smith will take the time to listen to you and to steer you in the direction that you need to go.
Thank you for watching another episode of America's Heroes Group, where we provide education about resources and information for our veterans, military, and their family.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group. This time our roundtable, we are globally connected. Military Family Matters with our partner and family caregiver, Keisha L. Jackson. Today is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. November is Military Family Appreciation, National Family Caregiver, and Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. Don't forget, November 11th is Veterans Day. Salute to all our veterans out there. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Kramer, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have with us again Keisha L. Jackson, U.S. Air Force veteran and family caregiver. And we're going to talk about the Department of Veterans Affairs Caregiver Support Program, the CSP. How you doing today, Keisha?
Hey, Sean, I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. So
Good.
tell us about the Caregiver Support Program. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard of it before. What does it offer, and what can people benefit from by this program?
Oh, okay. Before I even do, let me just give the website for people to have the information. If you go to caregiver.va.gov, that is the website, and it has a lot of information that we'll talk about today. But of course, it's going to be more exhaustive, more detailed. And when you go to the website, you'll have to, or when you go to caregiver.va.gov and you put in your zip code, it will route you to your local VA office, so that way you can coordinate with them about this program. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is the caregiver support line. Let me give you the phone number, or to the listening audience, so that if they call, this toll-free number is for caregivers, it's for family members and friends and veterans, the community as a whole. Again, you can call this support line and to get information about the caregiver support program. The number is 855-260-3274. Again, that's 855-260-3274. And that the support line is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then it's a Saturday from 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, as far as the program has been around for a while. It's been around really since 2007. I think that's when the program first started, and it really it was established in 2008, but it really around 2008, 2010, the time frame, the CSP program went into effect. And the program started because those that were in Iraq and Afghanistan, they needed assistance, right? They were returning to the States, a lot of them needing care for maybe some wounds or different things that they had experienced. And maybe these were some things that from previous eras that the military members did not survive, if I could just say it like that. And a lot of family members at that time or friends were caring for them, and there was a need to provide support, and that's really how the program started. So when it originally started, it was for that era of Iraq and Afghanistan, and then when the Mission Act came, that opened it up to those that were pre that time frame, our World War II, our World War I, our Vietnam, our Korean conflict. They became eligible, and then what they did was, in like a two-phased approach, they did phase one was for those pre 9/11, and then after that, I think in like 2020, maybe 2000, even 22, I'm not sure at the exact date. That's when they open it up to all service members to be eligible for the Caregiver Assistance Program with their caregiver.
And what does it offer for veterans? How does it work?
So there's really two programs. There's the general program, and then there is the comprehensive program. And the general program is a program that provides resources and different things for our caregivers. But for both of the programs, let me say this: the veteran must be enrolled in the VA health system.
Okay.
And so with the general program, it offers different things, like there's a text messaging system called the NAMI Caregiver Text Messaging Program, where although it's been around for quite some time, it's where the caregiver receives text messages. They can get motivational information, just different things from the program. It also has a BBC, is the Building Better Caregivers. That is a 6-week online workshop. It's self-paced where there's lessons, it's trained leaders guided in groups for support for caregivers. They have a Caregiver First program, which is also a training program. So some of these things, of course, are going to be dependent on the location of where you're going to your VA support. They may have, they'll have the programs, but they may be administered in different ways. Some of the other things that they have is a Reach VA Caregiver, and that's providing some individual or some group telephone settings that helps with problem-solving skills, stress management. They have something called SAVE. It's for suicide prevention training to help the caregivers to help their family members that may be having those tendencies or those thoughts of suicide. So those are some of the things that the general program provides.
And then you mentioned there's two main programs. So you have general support and you also have comprehensive. But the comprehensive, you have to be 70% disability or more. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have to be, I believe it's 70% service-connected rating, and it could be single or it could be a combined rating. And the veteran must be in need of, personal care services for a minimum of 6 months. And I think that's so key because that 6 months, if you say, like, if you were caring for a person for 6 months, and then if they had to go into the hospital, there could be a possibility that you would have to re-enroll at a particular time, but it's all individual based on the particular situation. And so the person needs to just reach out. Again, it's best to reach out to their local VA center to be able to talk more specifically about the different programs. With that one that you were mentioning for the comprehensive assistance, with that one, it could also provide a stipend, but you don't get the stipend from the general program. Okay. And so the monthly stipend is approved based off of the rating that the veteran has received from the VA.
So the general support services is more just like peer support, mentoring, coaching, online and phone support, referrals, things like that. Helping people with activities of daily living, giving them information on how to handle that. And then keep in mind, what we want to emphasize is that these are programs that help caregivers. So they don't provide caregiving services. They just help caregivers and the family or friends who are helping someone that needs the help. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think that's why the programs are really good, because a lot of times when you're talking about caregivers for whether it's veterans or just family caregivers in general, the focus is usually on the person that you're caring for and not on the person that's providing the care. And sometimes that person, or a lot of times you hear people, they're burnt out, they're having their own mental challenges, themselves, or they're exhausting all of their funds, all of their resources, or they feel like because of the care that they're providing, they don't have an outlet or for anybody to talk to. And so to be able to have the VA and other organizations that are specifically trying to target the veteran caregiver and to provide help for that person, I think that's really, really good.
Right.
As a matter of fact,
okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This year, the VA calls this the Year of the Caregiver, and they have been doing like site visits, surveys, where they've been talking to the veterans, but also to the caregiver to find out what are we doing right, and what can you tell us to help us to do even better. And one of the things that's been consistent that you hear a lot of times is that the caregivers are saying, I'm tired, I need a break, I need an outlet, I need respite. And so the VA, through the various respite program that they have, although there's respite specifically for the comprehensive, even with the general, that there is some respite that could be provided for family caregivers.
And I think that's so important that you mentioned. I was going to say is that if you don't take care of the caregiver, then you basically are not taking care of the person that needs the care, because the person who's the caregiver has to be in the right shape, the right headspace in order to be able to do a good job, to take care of somebody, to take care of a family member or loved one.
Right.
There was a study done by the National Alliance for Caregiving and AARP's Caregiving in the U.S. 2020 data survey that showed that 30% of caregivers die before the patient, the person they're caring for. 30% of them die before that, and that's what a lot of people say because of the stress, A lot of it's because of the toll it takes on your body. I remember when I was taking care of my mother, I got a call from a friend of mine who I worked with, and he was telling me, he's like, you know what, I mean, I understand you had to go back to Maryland and take care of your mom, but make sure you take care of yourself as well, because I've been through there. He said he'd been there and done it. He said, you know, one thing that you will find is that it's going to take a toll on you. And I didn't really know what he meant by that until I actually started doing it, but it's absolutely 100% true. You know, 1 in 5 Americans in this country are caregivers.
And I believe the numbers is just going to continually to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we always say to tell the caregiver, you know, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. And sometimes it's frustrating to even hear take care of yourself, because it's not that you don't necessarily want to. And a lot of times I'll go back to thinking about when I was caring for my mom. I went 3 years working a full-time job in the military, getting 2 hours of sleep on average a night for 3 years straight. Because of the needs that she had and the different things. And though, you know, my brothers and others were a part of that, some of it, you know, you're just making sure that the medications are there, making sure that if a bandage or dressing needs to be changed, or making the appointments, or you're being on hold. It's so many different things that are going on. That's why having respite for caregivers is so good. But it's also good for those that may know that there's somebody that's caring for a loved one, to say, you know what, let me see what I can do to kind of help. Maybe I can bring a meal, some water, I can sit. It's just, you know, that is helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. Just people don't realize just being able to just go and sit with someone to give respite care is such a big deal. You know, if you can get out for a couple of hours, if nothing else, just to catch your breath for a little bit or get some sleep. That's a huge benefit for a friend or a loved one who knows of someone who's who's caregiving for someone else in their family, or there's someone who's a friend. You know, if they say, hey, anything that I can do, you know, I can sit and I sit with you, or sit with your parent, or sit with somebody for a few hours or whatever. You know, if they need to go to the bathroom, help them to the bathroom. You know, if they need to eat something or do something, whatever. Hey, do this, do that. Simple stuff. But the fact of the matter is, when you're doing it 24/7, it's a big wear and tear on your body, on your mind.
It is.
I mean, it seems simple when you're doing it for a couple of hours, but doing it for 24/7 is a whole nother story.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day. She's an older person, and she's been caring for her husband, I would say at least 20-something years. And we were talking about VA, because some people love the VA and some people do not want to go to the VA anymore.
Want to tear it down.
Yes.
Actually, we get into that. Combat Craig there's a guy who has a podcast called Combat Craig.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
And he played this clip about the Quality of Life Foundation's statement when they looked into how the CSP, the Caregiver Support Program, was actually performing. And they said there was a lot of things they needed to do better, particularly with the frequency of assessments, because I guess it's quarterly. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying that these assessments can go on for like 2 hours, or they're saying, and that to recertify that you can qualify for these benefits. You know, what are some of the things that you see, maybe something like that could be improved upon? What things would you give to the VA for advice to improve the CSP program as it exists today?
You know, to me, honestly, that's a hard question, because I think about the VA often, and I'll say that when you were just talking about him, and saying some people love the VA and some people just, like you said, totally want to burn it down. It's like when they started with this era of a small group of people, or relatively compared to what they have now. I believe now they have like over 55,000 people that are enrolled. So with that, you also have staff. You may have a shortage of staff. You have, depending on the location of the VA center, there could be different skill sets and all of these different things. So there's so many different things I think the VA is trying to do to help through the program to get it to a better place. So overall, it seems like what they're doing by talking to the caregivers to get their experience, to hear what their problems are, because if you're not actively caring for somebody, you could say something, but it may be off of your past experience or what you believe. Mm-hmm. But to be able to have these site visits and go to the different locations and hear firsthand what the caregiver is saying, and if the caregiver is saying, I am burnt out, I am tired, and now they're offering mental health assist for the caregiver as well as the veteran. they're offering respite. And I was mentioning to the person that I was saying, the older person that I was talking to a little while ago, she was just telling me that she's enrolled in the program. She's in California, and she says she has 30 days of respite that she has to take this year. And as a matter of fact, she's getting ready to go on a cruise because the VA at that location, now her husband is in a like a adult daycare, assistant living to help her out, to give her a break. So there are things that are being done, but I think as it is expanded, I just think it's going to take a lot of time, you know what I mean, to just try to put things together. But it's a moving train constantly because more people are enrolling as they hear about it. But that doesn't mean just because more people hear about it that the staff is going to increase overnight, or the skill set that's needed to care or to provide the resources is going to be available overnight.
The only thing I could think of and I don't know much about the program, as I said, but like a quarterly assessments to me seems a little bit excessive. I mean, if they did annual assessments or even biannual assessments, probably. I mean, once you're disabled, it's not like you're going to magically just become, able to just, do your own thing and be okay, unless you got into a car accident and you had to get rehab. I mean, most people who are disabled are going to remain disabled more than likely, particularly if they're seniors, for the duration of their life.
I think, and this is just me, I can't speak for the VA because I don't work for the VA, but I know when COVID came, there was kind of a time frame where they weren't doing in-home assessments. They kind of laxed their restrictions a little bit, and were doing maybe video or tele. And then after that, starting this year, they opened it back up to saying that they were going to do at least the assessments or the annual review. And I do believe that there were some, not necessarily for this particular program, but there are people out there that were taking advantage of saying, I am caring for someone, or I'm in the home for someone, and they weren't necessarily there. And so there's all these other sides of it. I always think about I remember when I was going to the VA to see if there was service-connected disability, rating for me. I specifically remember a person telling me, and it was not like I was dressed like I was all that. I just had on maybe some jeans or whatever. But the person was telling me, you shouldn't be dressed like this if you're trying to come get a rating. You should dress down. So there is that other side of it. We don't want to talk about the negative side of it, but there are people that will try to game the system. And so I don't know if that could be some of the reason why, or it could be that they really want to go in because, remember, these are family caregivers. They're not medical professions for the most part. Right. Maybe they want to make sure that the equipment that we're providing in your home, that you're using it the proper way. Or, different things like that. So I always try to be a little open-minded instead of being, on one-sided and say, and if they maybe what they'll find out is that, quarterly it's just too much, depending on maybe the situation or the individual that's being cared for.
Right. Like I say, I have no idea what goes into an assessment. I mean, 2 hours to get this is feedback from the Quality of Life Foundation. They did a survey and they found this was one of the number one complaints that people in the program had, is that the assessments were too long and they were too frequent. But the thing of it is, though, is that on the flip side of it, I don't know of any other program outside of something you have to pay for out of pocket, i.e. either long-term care insurance or something along those lines, that actually gives you adequate respite care and gives you the resources and tools and the knowledge and the training to help care for somebody. Because to me, the things that they do provide are wonderful. I mean, text messages.
They're putting it in constantly as they're going by. So they're trying to do process improvements. They're trying to help the primary caregiver if they don't have insurance to potentially get CHAMP VA, provide travel reimbursement, different things like that. So all of these things are being put in place to try to help.
Keisha L. Jackson, U.S. Air Force veteran and family caregiver, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
See you next time. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
And welcome back to America's Heroes Group, this time with our Roundtable Mental Health Matters with our partner, NAMI, Contra, Costa. Today is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. November is Military Family Appreciation, National Family Caregiver, and Alzheimer Disease Awareness Month. And don't forget, November 11th is Veterans Day, so let your veterans in your neighborhood, in your community, and your family. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host, Army National Guard veteran. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner with us, Gigi Crowder, Executive Director of NAMI Contra Costa in California. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and that's an advocacy group founded by family members with people with mental illness. So we're going to talk about California's Care Court efforts that modernizes behavioral health to address homelessness in their state. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So what is California's Care Court? Explain that first.
So it's the CARE stands for Community Assistance, Recovery, and Empowerment, and it's a court setting, much like many jurisdictions have behavioral health court, but this one is specifically designed to address the needs of individuals who are living with the most severe mental illnesses on the schizophrenia spectrum. We in California have, like many other states, a major issue with those that are unsheltered because we have not put in place an appropriate response to those. That's what's contributed to our unsheltered population here. So our governor, Newsom, wants to take some of the funding that we have for what we call our Mental Health Services Act and use it to address the individuals that have gone untreated for their mental health challenges and are therefore typically not able to remain in a residence or in residential treatment programs without, like, it's somewhat like a conservatorship, without a mandate from the court. So it would be a 24-month program for those that are, and it'd be court ordered, and they'd work with a team with the outcome being housing for those individuals.
So instead of being a ward of the state, which is the case in a lot of areas, a lot of parts of the country, they would have their own, they would still have their independence, but be able to get services and help in order to get off of to get get shelter or get housing, but they have mental health issues.
Yeah, it's a community approach. So rather than have the individuals be institutionalized, they would work with a care team. They would have a public defender that'd be working with them, and they would be mandated to take their medications, have a treatment plan in place. But the most important part is a housing plan.
Mm-hmm. And it's important for people to understand that when you're ward of a state, you really don't have any control anymore. You're pretty much being labeled as incompetent. So you have to do what the court tells you to do. You have to have someone that does things for you. You don't get the chance to even spend your own money. You have to do what they tell you to do. You're pretty much almost like a child as a ward of the state. But in this case, they have their independence, it sounds like.
Exactly. So, it's managed by a care team, but they want heavy involvement from the individual. A lot of times we are understanding that you need to have a client-centered approach if you want the individual to actually participate so that they're more self-directed about the decisions that are made for them. And in most jurisdictions, we're not even reaching the individuals that are most in need. We see them when they're incarcerated, and sometimes they're released without a diagnosis of a mental illness or a substance use. So that's why we say Los Angeles County in California is the largest mental health facility in the state, but it's the jail.
Yeah, so we say the same thing about Cook County Prison in Chicago. It's crazy because there's such a connection between mental illness and our mental health. I hesitate to use the word mental illness, but mental health or deficiencies in mental health and homelessness. Because someone could be completely functional to an extent, but there's certain things, psychological issues, things like that might make it hard for someone to just do the simple things to get them off the street.
I agree, and I did hesitate from using the term mental health until I started working with the individuals that have the more severe illnesses. And I think sometimes if we don't just label it as what it is, which is a debilitating illness, and we've had in recent, maybe the last 10 years, a decade, we talked about recovery and how important it is to recover. But I don't want to glamorize mental illness. There's people who have schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. They could do everything that the doctors have prescribed them to do, and the symptoms are such that even with following a medication regime, they still are symptomatic. So I think when we had kind of moved away to using terminology like health, it connects those people to the general population as if they can do some things themselves to support their wellness. And working in the field for as long as I have, I'm well aware of the fact that for some individuals, they need a lot more than than we have been able to offer them in the past. And they need that governance. You mentioned almost childlike. And it's sad because we definitely do understand it for older adults who might live with dementia and Alzheimer's, that we would not, allow them on their own to just make decisions that could harm them. And I think we need to move back to understanding that people who live with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder sometimes are in that place. And so there's this debate between family members, which is I'm one, and peers, people who have personal lived experience who say no forced treatment. But in my history working with people with the more severe mental illnesses, if you just leave them up to their own devices, that's how people end up unsheltered and living on the street.
Mm-hmm. So how is California's care court trying to modernize behavioral health in order to help homeless people?
Well, I mean, the governor, who I believe wants to be the mayor, the president of this United States one day, and he probably would get elected if he could solve this homelessness issue. But it's going to take $14 billion in a multi-year investment, and they're going to, they say, provide 55,000 new housing units and have treatment slots as well. And then they're doing this by taking funding away from what was our Mental Health Services Act, which it's so far there's no additional dollars going to support it. So they had some conversation about bonds. It was at first pushed out to a much later date, but then now he had headed on the ballot for this year, and it's likely to pass just as the Mental Health Services Act did, but it's bridging the gap with housing and behavioral health in a way it has not been done before, and it'll allow for some of the units to be for people who are on Medi-Cal, so that we can also provide more behavioral health services. But for those individuals with personal lived experience, they're saying that it's forcing treatment on them.
So people are complaining that it's going to force treatment on them. Is that what I heard you right?
Yeah. Okay. So we understand conservatorships that are, time limited, and when people are deemed by a doctor, they can get conservatorship. You mentioned it earlier. It's like being a ward of the state. But for a lot of these individuals, they don't have connection with family to push the issue about getting them any help. There was the assisted outpatient treatment programs, which was also connected to the court, but it gave the power kind of to the judges, and you had to kind of have like 9 markers. And so there's a lot of people who don't have contact with the behavioral health but are in desperate need, so they haven't been hospitalized, but they're on the street and they're chronically ill. So this one kind of captured those individuals who've kind of been the ones left behind, who end up more often going to jail versus going to any treatment facility and, self-medicating. And so I'm kind of on the fence in some ways about the rollout and how the governor is doing it, because I certainly don't want to see treatment dollars being taken from Mental Health Services Act. I'd be okay with another tax, actually, that allows for Californians to give toward housing.
Or they could do a bond offering, I think you mentioned earlier, so doing a bond offering to raise money for the care, it's this high interest rate environment that we're in right now. You could do a bond that pays 7%. Maybe that would be attractive to people across the country. People in the state of California, very wealthy in the state, had a lot of very wealthy people that would love a 7% bond. Backed by the government, backed by the state of California. The thing is, I think you touched on too, which I think is really, really interesting, is that you have this idea of, which happens in the civilian world all the time, and in the or when I say civilian world, people who are not necessarily in a government program. There's people that are using private resources to try to get a family member to take their medication. Or they oftentimes will say, if you don't take your medication, you get your paycheck's getting cut off, or your stipend or your allowance is getting cut off. Using that same idea for I can see being controversial for people who are getting housing. To say, if you don't take your medication, you lose your housing. And then with that, back to that argument about, or that cry about forced medication. Still you have to take your medication or certify that or prove that you don't need the medication in order to stay in your house. But it's a tricky situation. But what is the consensus in right now about that topic?
I'll say that this group of individuals are usually individuals that don't have any connection to even getting Medi-Cal. Like, they're so far, disconnected that they don't have a mailbox where they would even get mail. So their Social Security, that they're likely eligible, they don't get it. They don't have any income coming in.
Right.
And so that's the tragedy of how we've not been able to meet them. And I was saying earlier, most counties and state jurisdictions only touch about 30% of the people who might be eligible for Medi-Cal and county rent programs. So we have not done the best job of identifying people. More often when they show up in the system, they show up in jail, not in a treatment program. And even if they show up in a treatment program, the tracking, the follow-up, all that's needed to connect them to a case manager so that maybe they could, recognize the fact that they need additional support to get into mental wellness or balance, even with living with a major diagnosis. We just have not done a good job of keeping those individuals in a treatment plan that's worked. So part of this would be working with court-ordered, and much like behavioral health court, if they're in violation, they could actually be put on a conservatorship. It's somewhat of an alternative to that, but supposed to be more community-based and more input from the individual and other social services departments that haven't always coordinated with behavioral health.
I can see someone standing in front of a judge right now and saying, you can get back on your meds, or you can go to jail. But if you go back on your meds, we can get you a house, we can get you this and that. You can, we can help you address some of your medical needs and things along those lines, or you can go to jail because you're constantly disrupting society. You're constantly doing this or doing that, which lands you back in prison, lands you back in jail. It's an interesting question, but at the same time, I think it's something that we got to go down that path and figure this out, because we have to have that hard conversation to find out what really works and what really helps people.
Yeah. And a lot of times the answer is hospitalization, which of course drives costs up. When a person, has been living for so long on the streets, I don't always feel like they're ready to just get put in an apartment. There's something called a housing first model, but I support housing that heals. So you can't just give a person a Section 8 voucher, or even furnish their place and say, here, now you're ready to live on your, not when they live with severe mental illness.
Exactly.
I mean, the med regimen becomes very important. And if you don't have those wraparound services, you're on this vicious cycle that we've seen people get on many times, like through COVID. Our team at NAMI, Contra, Costa, we would go out recognizing that there needed to be a connection to individuals getting vaccinated who are sleeping. I would say people who sleep under the stars every night while everybody else is moving around and getting vaccinated and sheltering in place. Many did not have a place to shelter. So we knew that a lot of those programs that was supporting them, like churches, went away. Mm-hmm. They were sheltered. So we, double masked and wore gloves and went out and gave them the essential food that they need. And in the conversations with a lot of people, their family members were looking for them. So we used our cell phones to reconnect people because, perhaps the last time I saw you, you'd stolen something from the house and you were self-medicating. So we told you couldn't come back. But now with COVID out there, a lot of the family members rethought that position. And we did the part around educating them about, well, you only saw the substance abuse. You didn't see the mental illness part. So let's have you learn a little bit more about what that is so you can better support your loved one. And they're more likely to have success with getting on meds, following the regimen if you have family support. So this community model tries to, use a whole person care approach so that individuals would be willing to, to get back to a place of health.
Mm-hmm. And the thing, like I mentioned before, is that homelessness is not like a one thing or one issue type of situation where there's one thing happened to you, you lost a job, and all of a sudden you ended up homeless. There's usually a snowball effect of how a person goes from being functional and living in a house and doing what every normal person does every day in society, to being out on the street. And even that process, I say this over and over and over again because I've seen it firsthand myself, that process of going through that downward spiral could even trigger mental health issues and trauma. The fact that to get built, the process of losing everything you have and ending up in that place can trigger all types of mental illness situations and trauma that might make it hard for you to get off the street. So you have to, that comprehensive, holistic approach is so critical because it could be some drug issues or some alcohol issues involved. There could be some family trauma, sexual abuse involved. There could be something even deeper than that. Maybe like you mentioned, like a person could be schizophrenic, or they could have other mental health issues that, are really affecting their perception of reality. And that's a whole big thing. That's not something that you can't send a police officer out there and just go and arrest somebody and put them in jail thinking they're going to learn their lesson. They have to go and get rehabilitated in some kind of way and get all the full gamut of health resources available to them, and they don't have any money. They don't have any family. They don't have they don't have anything to fall back on to help them through this.
And all of that typically, does happen, like, Glide Memorial in San Francisco is probably the largest faith base that we could identify in California that does the work. And for many years, they've been compassionately embracing individuals. And when they can, they have been able to, close the loop and get people back into care. But so often the individuals don't have the continued services that they need. There's threshold, like you can have a case manager, and then once you're doing well, you lose the case manager. And it's almost as if people don't understand the circular nature of mental illness. And you could be taking your meds sometime, and the meds are no longer effective. And sadly, a lot of the medications come with horrible side effects that would make one not want to take them. So they stop taking the meds because they're not working for them anymore, because it's not the right dosage, a variety of different reasons. So we're hoping that if a person connects with a care coordinator and a psychiatrist, then we can improve the treatment regimen for the individual and get them into a place where it's not just being treated like a number and the individual is not given individualized services, because that's what's really needed. And that's what, for me, when I start looking at the way some groups of people metabolize medications compared to others, like it's well documented, African Americans, who is the largest number of the folks that we're talking about who are unsheltered and living with a mental illness on the street and too often incarcerated, they get the same regimen with no consideration. So a lot of times you'll see them over-medicated and then not feeling like themselves. We work with family members who for years are trying to get services for their loved ones, and often they get them once the person has been found incompetent to stand trial, and they've been doped to a point where you don't recognize your child anymore. You don't want them so, drugged that their personality is gone. And a lot of times the family members will tell me, well, he's not the same person because he's not even asking about money anymore. We knew what would get him excited. They're not excited. So just trying to find that balance where the individual can, and I always say, connect to their purpose, and despite living with a mental illness. So those are the kind of conversations we have at NAMI Contra Costa with people. You've been out here for a long time. Do you think you might be ready to try something different? And then we try and connect them to services without this mandate, with just kind of that old-fashioned compassion and caring and tapping into the hurt and the traumas that the individuals have been carrying. And I know personally when it's worked most is when you've connected them with the faith community.
Because oftentimes the faith community is an institution that is it's not just one person, or it's a group of people, a family of people. That's actually so it's like you're assimilating a person into a society or a culture. As opposed to just one person, showing up every now and again to give you some advice or help you with something or whatever. You have a whole network of people that you can fall into, like as a substitute family in a way. Connection is so important. So, and then the other key ingredients of connecting people is that then they get the messaging. You're not doing this on your own. There's a higher power, however you defined it. So even for people who have substance abuse issues that don't live with mental illness, the ones that are most successful is because they recognize they can't do it alone and they need a higher power to walk with them in the journey to wellness. And I think also putting yourself back, whether you call it a higher power or a God or whatever you call it, the idea of putting down your own ego and saying, okay, I need help. I don't have all the answers. I make mistakes. I do things wrong. There's got to be a better way to do things, and a way that I don't know about. So let me go find out that way, and let me be humble a little bit. Let me humble myself and try to seek something greater than myself.
And when we've had, when we've had those conversations with people who have had the highest forms of schizophrenia with a lot of, symptoms, they even, get it that, and it's almost like a relief. Are you sharing with me that I don't have to battle these voices and all of this alone, and that if I do take the medication, and that maybe God purposed me to be the person who would have this illness, and maybe I just need to trust the doctors, that we've made a lot of progress with that. But more important with saying, what kind of life do you want to have? Because you're not happy with this, not knowing where your next meal is coming from, laying a tent, going away, and then having law enforcement pick up your tent and your sleeping bag, and then you got to start all over again.
That's so disheartening when you see that. I've seen it happen so many times. And a lot of times the person who's going through homelessness, we've all seen the big, tent where there's like 1,000 things, looks like a big pile of refuge and trash is all kind of cobbled together in this big ball of stuff and underneath a viaduct. We've seen all that. We've all seen that stuff. But to that person, that's all they have. That's their home. And when you take that stuff away from them, that is devastating. That's like if you came back to your house and it was inflamed.
Right.
And it was burning up, and all your stuff was in there, and and everything you own was in there. That's how they feel, and they go through it over and over and over.
Exactly. Again. And new legislation, especially in the city I am in, we get donations for sleeping bags because in most counties they can predict how many people are going to die from hypothermia, but they can't figure out how to keep them off the streets. So we get tents and sleeping bags, and one of our local jurisdictions, 2 days after we gave all of that out, they came and they're supposed to give notice, and they cleared it. And so I'm thinking, here we are raising funds for all of this and giving it away. So I sent an invoice into the city. They haven't got paid yet, but bottom line is the tears when we've seen when people have gone back. And I'll say a large number of the people we've been working with are vets, and things that connected them to what's important to them through their history of having been a vet, just gone.
Service medals that they got when they're in the military.
Exactly. All of those type of things. And then people have so many rules about who can go into the shelters. Well, you can't take your animal. Well, there's a whole culture of why a lot of times people who are unsheltered have a pet. Their best friend. So they don't want to go in if they got to leave their pets behind. And then some of them had really rigid rules around no smoking, cigarettes, no this, no that. And it's like, oh, I'll just take my chances on the street. And many women, they definitely don't want to go into a co-ed shelter because they're more at risk.
Or they have children.
They have trust. Yes.
And as God forbid you have a child that's over 16, then now that child is looked at as a boy, because now that boy is looked at as a man, and now they want to put that young boy with the men inside the shelter and so on. I always thought it'd be a good idea, and I repeat this idea oftentimes, and I think it's not, and we need to kind of come together and share ideas, people that have worked in the homeless with the homeless community, and show some of the things that we have. We have so many resources at our fingertips we could be using and utilizing, and things we can incorporate in our everyday infrastructure. Having community rooms in hospitals and police stations. Right now in Chicago, there are we have a big migrant situation. I said this last couple weeks ago in our show. Migrants are coming in, and so the police stations have been giving refuge to the migrants here in Chicago. There's tent cities around. It's great and to an extent because it's working. It's better than the alternative, but there's tent cities all around these police stations. Almost every police station in Chicago now has a tent city. And they don't remove them or anything like that. Some states haven't had that. You might have that there in California, I'm not sure. But you see that happening, and the police are allowing even social services and people, the nonprofits, to come in and help them. You could have community rooms in police stations and hospitals where it's just open rooms. It could be multi-purpose rooms that people could come and get out of the cold when it's 20 degrees below zero. That's a place for them to sleep. They're already doing it in the lobbies. They're already going to the police stations and doing that in the lobbies. They're already doing that in the waiting rooms at public hospitals. They could make great spaces for them to do this safely, and to also be an avenue where they can get social services. People could come in once a month or once a week or every night, and interview people to get them health care and get them, off the street, help get them off the street. So.
Well, that's certainly an approach I would support. Sadly, in Oakland, California, you can be parked right in front of the Oakland Police Department and get your car broken into.
Unfortunately, that's a big problem in almost every major city nowadays. Gigi, thank you for your time. We ran out of time, so we got to have you back. And I would love to have you in a part 2 about this conversation, because homelessness is something that we talk about often on our show, and this is a really good topic to kind of explore. And I would like to see how California's efforts, because it's going to take all 50 states to do what they do and to share these ideas back and forth to understand how to solve this problem, and we can at least get ahead of the problem better than what we're doing today.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
This is America's Heroes Group. If you have any questions, make sure to email us at info@americashg.org. Also, you can reach us at 312-803-2618. That's 312-803-2618. info@americashg.org. And check out our redesigned website, americashg.org, redesigned and new and improved. Thank you for your time. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you can, donate. We're a 503 nonprofit. All your donations are tax deductible. Appreciate your time. See you next week.